Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Domes. I made it back after a little break in June. I went out and visited some friends in California, and on my way back, I stopped and did a 10-day Vipassana meditation course in Joshua Tree, and the experience was just so life-changing. I wanted to share with everyone what happened, and it's just changed my perspective on so many things, and it's already started to make my life so much better, but I just feel like there's so much more to realize now. And so I wanted to tell you what happened in this meditation center. And I start telling the story by showing people my psoriasis, actually. So I've had psoriasis since I was 18. And you can see this was a continuous red patch before I went out there. It's fading there. I'll show you my belly button too because that's where it's the most dramatic. But my psoriasis is going away after this meditation experience. And I always felt that the root cause behind the psoriasis, which that's considered an autoimmune disease that basically causes rashes on your body. Um, I always felt like the cause of that was chronic stress and tension, and I knew that most of my stress and tension was stored in like my neck and shoulders. So I get to the meditation center, and I didn't think it was going to be that hard because I've done a lot of solo backpacking and I'm used to spending time by myself. You don't actually talk to anybody for the 10 days. And I've done a little bit of meditation in the past, so I didn't think it was going to be really a big deal. And the first day I sat down, you meditate for 10 hours off and on throughout the day in like 1 to 2 hour chunks. And you're just sitting on the ground trying to be motionless and doing the meditation technique that they teach you. And so I'm sitting on the ground cross-legged, and like all of these areas where my tension is stored in my shoulders and neck, they just like light up in discomfort. Mostly discomfort at first, especially like in my shoulder blades. It's just kind of like, oh, like I just want to crack it, you know? And everyone in the meditation hall is like popping their necks and all this stuff, and I was doing that. And in my head, I'm like, well, hopefully that'll just get better, or my body will adjust over the 10 days. And the moment I knew I was in for something more than I expected was they do a video discourse at night by this guy Goenka, who he's really the one who brought this technique to the United States. And he said all that pain and discomfort, that is the sankharas leaving your body, which sankhara is a Buddhist term, which, as they explain, these are your blind aversions. So it's basically your unthinking reaction to certain feelings, either aversions or cravings. And most people, including me, we have an aversion to pain. I have an aversion to pain. You don't want to feel pain. So that's why I'm like sitting there uncomfortable because I don't want to feel the discomfort. I'm trying to avoid it. But they teach you how to face the pain, and they teach you that pain is just a sensation just like anything else, and that everything in life, it arises and it passes away, and the pain, it arises and passes away. And they say Gautama Buddha, he got to the point where he was able to see that everything is made up of subatomic particles that are vibrating at trillions of times per second, and it's all just rising and passing away trillions of times per second. That's what everything is, and that everything's just energy. And he was able to see that, and that's been confirmed. They tell the story, this somebody at Cal Berkeley in the 50s made a machine that was able to detect that trillions of vibrations per second. But so they just tell you that the rising and the passing, there's no importance in that. So don't worry about it, which I'm sitting there in extreme discomfort, and it's hard to live that or put your mind in that reality. But that's what they teach you, and they teach you to observe the pain without reacting. So I tried to, at first, again, I'm like wanting to pop and crack everything, and I tried to eventually just sit there and observe the discomfort, and then they tell you to just let it go, and then it's gone. The reality is that these sankharas, or you could call it tension, again, like a lot of this stuff was so, it's kind of hocus pocus seeming, but I could physically feel things happening in my body, and I have the physical proof that something happened in this psoriasis clearing up. So this was the interesting thing about the experience was things I was experiencing things for real happening that didn't fit into my mental model of what is possible in the world. And this is what's changed my perspective on reality completely. But I was sitting there and I could feel the tension leaving, and it was all this pain and discomfort, but then I could also feel stuff relaxing that probably hasn't relaxed in years. And like my Adam's apple was like shifting around and like all this stuff in my neck was moving and everything. And then I'm like laying in bed at night and like I could feel it felt like there was like rubber bands on my face. And it was just like all the spots of tension, I could feel them because all these layers are getting peeled back. So as I'm sitting there for 10 hours a day, 5 or 6 days into this thing, it's like so many layers were getting pulled back that I was able to start to see the real reality and the real state of my body and my being, which was not pleasant at all for me to see. It was actually horrifying. A few years ago, I started doing this natural vision correction, and it's all about relaxing the muscles around your face. So at that point, I became aware that I am almost always tensing my fingers. And I've been kind of trying to work on this for a few years, and I've made some progress on it. And I'm sitting in Vipassana, or actually I was laying in bed one night, and it's like all these layers get peeled back. So my true state of being is like just tension. But if you saw me, before I went to Vipassana, I probably would have looked okay. And it's like there's all these layers on top of the tension that exists just for me to convince myself that like everything was okay. But the real reality was that I was like super tense all the time. So like all of the layers hiding that tension were just gone at this point. So then I'm laying in bed and like my hands were just curling into these like really grotesque shapes, and it was horrifying. Like I could relax them if I wanted to, but then the moment I went back to the meditation technique, they would just curl into these shapes again, and I was like, wow, like so that's really what's happening, and that was what was happening. The meditation technique they teach you was also surprising because you're not really focusing on your breath, you're just trying to feel sensations with your body. And the first 3 days, you're mostly just focused around your nose area. And then eventually you get into basically like a full body scan where you start at your scalp and you're trying to just feel any kind of sensation. Like it could be an itch or a temperature or air moving or something. And you go down part by part all the way to your toes. And then you go back up and you're just doing that for like hours every day. So all these layers are getting peeled back, peeled back, peeled back. And like I kind of knew that stuff sometimes surfaces for people from their childhood. I was like, if something's in there, it'll come out in the 10 days. I wasn't expecting something like that to happen. But towards the end, I was laying in bed at night and just the discomfort I was feeling, now it was getting into like actual pain. So now when I'm meditating, I'm not just feeling discomfort. I was starting to feel basically like shooting pain in the back of my neck. And I'm laying in bed, starting to experience that with my hands all curled up. And I felt like I was having an actual exorcism. It looked and felt like there was like a demon inside of me, which again, this is what I actually experienced. And I wouldn't have believed something like that was possible before I went and did this. And while I'm like laying in bed in that state, this memory comes back to me, which was this picture of me in sixth grade. I was on this knowledgeable trivia team, and my team won like this local competition. We were at a local university, and we had a picture of us in the newspaper, and it was just like I was one of the better people on the team, and it was such a fun day, and just I was so happy. It was like I loved doing that, and we were so successful, and um, the image that came back to me was the newspaper picture of my team, which I had that picture in this box in my room till I was like in high school because it was one of my favorite memories. And in this moment in Vipassana, like I even remember the t-shirt that I was wearing. And at the same time, I had the realization that I hadn't thought of that moment in probably 20 years, I don't think. And it just came back and it was so clear. And I was like, just thinking the word knowledgeable was like, wow, like that was, I love the knowledgeable. And then I was like, why? I haven't thought of that in 20 years. It's like, why would that come back to me? It was just bizarre, like in the midst of everything. And I'm like, well, why would that happen? So the next day, which was the last full day of meditation before you can talk to people again, I was just trying to get as many of these sankharas out of me as possible. And It was the most intense physical pain I've ever felt. I've never broken a bone really. So, but for me, it was the most intense physical pain I felt, and I was just sitting there meditating, and again, it was just shooting pain, and it was so intense that I was like, my hands were just gripped on my knees, just feeling this pain and trying to face this pain because I knew at that point that I was just going to be stuck in this state of tension for the rest of my life if I wasn't willing to face this, and if I did face it, that it was a whole new life was waiting for me on the other side. So I was just like, I'm just gonna go through and face this thing, and so I'm dealing with this pain all day. And sometime in the afternoon, it was like there was pain, and then I was feeling like a relaxation after that. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm kind of getting towards the end of this thing. And then I'm thinking, why did this image come back to me? And I'm thinking about it, and I'm looking at the picture of me as probably 12 or 13 years old, like smiling and just so happy. And I had the thought that I would be really sad for that kid if I knew that was the last time he felt that happy. And then the real breakthrough moment came when I had the realization that that's not some other person, that's me. And I'm here in this room meditating, and I haven't felt just any emotion, pure happiness since I was a kid. And that's the reality. That was the reality, the horrifying reality, the real reality. And it was just like, wow, it was really sad. I literally felt like there was a part of me that I had just like put in a cage and put in the corner. And now it was like back unified with me. And it was so emotional, and just all this emotion came out, and I'm just like sobbing, and the crying went on for days even after I left the Vipassana, because it was all these memories that I realized I'd been repressing of my childhood. And it was again, for me, like, if anybody goes, they'll have a different experience. In my case, I was repressing a lot of happy memories, because I think what ended up happening was just I was so happy as a child, and then there was like signs that was ending. So I guess the other thing that happened was that night I was laying in bed, and this feeling of just like peace and calm came onto me. And then I heard this lullaby that my mom used to sing to me, which again, I hadn't thought of in forever. And again, I'm like sobbing and stuff. And it was the bizarre thing and beautiful thing was that it wasn't just the memory, it was the feelings. The feelings were there. And it was like, I felt the exact same feelings that I felt going to sleep as a 3 or 4 year old with my mom singing a lullaby to me, and just feeling so loved, just feeling love, and just so pure with just feeling that. And they talk about in the course, the ego's not real and all this stuff. And I remembered what it was like to feel and experience life without an ego. Because when you're a kid, you don't care, like, you have a favorite shirt and you wear it because you like it. You don't care what other people think about that. And that's kind of what I lost. That's what I started losing as I became a teenager. And then you care about social status and money and career and getting things, and you aren't feeling as a kid. And this is what came back to me in Vipassana, was I remembered what it was like to be a kid and feel as a kid. And it's like, you're sad, you bruise your knee, like you cry, and if you're happy, you smile and laugh. And you just feel. And I could see that I wasn't really feeling. I had really numbed myself. And so I think, and this took me a lot of days to process, and like I'm still getting new perspectives on it, but I think what happened was just I was so happy as a child that when there were signs that was ending, then I just was holding on to my childhood, and I just couldn't let it go. It's like, okay, so now my mom's not putting me to bed. Does that mean I'm never going to be that happy again? And as a child, you have that thought and you don't know what to do with it. Now, and Vipassana, the whole thing is like, you're able to let these memories out and observe them and then let it go. And of course, with an adult mind, I understand that like things change. And that's what, again, they teach you, things arise and pass. Like that part of my life arose and it's passed, and then a new part arises and passes. And it's just crazy because I've been holding on to that since probably I was 8 or 9 years old, I think. I could even remember starting to have some problems with my left hip when I was playing soccer, and that could have been the first like physical manifestation of that. And subconsciously, that was deep in there, and it was manifesting itself in so many ways in my life that I could see now, and just having kind of not being present, not being able to be fully present like I was when I was a child, and always having anxiety, always thinking about the future. My head was part of me was always somewhere else, no matter what I was doing. And I have experienced a lot of really happy times, like the dome builds, for example, have just been so fun. It's so gratifying for me, and but even then it's like part of me is thinking, and again, this is all coming from me, it has nothing to do, this is not a slight on the people who came, but part of me would be thinking, oh, this is so much work, I can't wait till people leave and I can be by myself again. And but then the reality is then people would leave, and then I'm like, oh, I'm so lonely, this is so much work, and the project's taking forever and it's just me here. And so like never really being fully satisfied, and again, not just being present and not being able to just feel and feel real emotions, and have that, and just be a have emotions. I don't know, just feeling very guarded, and then also just like not being willing to feel this pain, but also not letting myself visualize how happy I really could be. Like I have these dreams and hopes for what will happen in my life, and after I left Vipassana, I was able to really just let myself visualize that and think about how happy I would be and how good I would feel. And I mean, the reality is like that's all there in the present moment. It's all your perspective. Like there's so many things, so many good things happening all the time that you could be happy about. And this part of me holding on to the past, that the holding on to the past was why I wasn't happy. It wasn't because of what was happening around me. It was because I was holding on to the past and I wasn't able to be present. And when you let yourself be present, like you will be happy again. So that's what the Vipassana has taught to me. And they tell you to keep meditating for an hour in the morning and an hour at night for the first year. And I've been doing that because there's still tension. It's going away, but I'm pretty determined to get that out of there. And this has totally changed my life because before I went, I was so tired. I was so exhausted all the time. And I'm like trying to work on the house, and everything was exhausting me. And I see now that it wasn't really the house, it was just my mindset was exhausting, because as I'm working on the house, again, I'm thinking this is so hard, it's so hot, it's taking so long. And if you're able to just be present, then those thoughts aren't there, and then you're just doing. I would say my life is becoming more of like a doing and feeling experience, instead of like I have to accomplish XYZ before I go to sleep today or else I'm a failure. And then the reality is, say I work on part of that. There's you're never gonna fit what it doesn't mean to finish something. Like say I finish the house, even now that I still have to do the permaculture project, and what if that's done? Well, now I have to start harvesting, processing the food, and it's like you're never gonna there's no such thing as finishing something. So having the end goal as the only thing that dominates your mindset, you're just never going to be satisfied. And if now I'm able to just be more present, and when I'm plastering, I'm just plastering, I'm feeling the sensations. That's what they teach you to do, is to feel sensations with your body. It helps keep my mind present and from wandering off and being anxious and thinking about other things. And it's so much more enjoyable, and it's so much easier. I don't even feel like I'm working anymore. And I only work on the house when I feel like it. And if I'm tired, like I take a nap. And every day is just an experience. And it's the ever present now. That's our only reality. And you have to make yourself comfortable in now, or else you're just never going to be happy. And it means letting go of a lot of things. And I realized I was way more attached to a lot of material things than I thought. And that's what's keeping you unhappy, which I've realized in a big way. So that's my Vipassana experience. I'm so grateful. I've only heard about Vipassana when I started going to dome builds, and it was seeing the people go and hearing their experiences and seeing with my own eyes that like it was obvious this had a big impact on people who have gone. So I'm very grateful for those people for going, because that's what inspired me to go. And again, I didn't expect to get any of this out of the experience. and it's totally changed my life. So thank you to Goenka for doing Vipassana. Thanks. I was just so grateful that I went, and you know, it's still a process, but I just feel so much better than I did before I went. So I'm so happy about that. So thanks for listening to my story. I'll probably make another episode because this has had, like I said, it shaped a lot of the foundations of what I thought reality could be. Just talking about kind of the mind body connection and these memories. How are they able to come back so crystal clear? A lot of things happened that I was grappling to understand how, and part of me didn't want to believe that they were real. So I kind of did a big deep dive, starting with the concept of time, and I've been reading about the theory of relativity and quantum mechanics, and this telepathy tapes podcast. It A lot of things we discount as just being coincidence and stuff. It's like that's the real part, and what this physical reality that we think is real, that's literally an illusion that's created in our minds. And so I want to talk about that the next episode, and walk you through my train of thought, and how I've reached certain conclusions. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching and listening, and I will talk to you later.